You, my friend, have an insatiable curiosity of life, the universe, of humans, of this world. And because of this, you have acquired an insurmountable wealth of knowledge that you desire to communicate and to express. But what I want to know is who or what stopped you from speaking or communicating your voice, your mind? Who stopped you from speaking your mind? Who stopped you from, who persecuted you or silenced you from speaking your truth, your perspective, your knowledge? So, welcome, everyone. If this sounds like you, this is Pluto in the third house. I hope you guys are enjoying my series. This video is for those people, for those of you that have Pluto in the third house in your natal. The next part will be where Pluto is transiting your Aquarius house in your natal chart. Okay. So I want to know who silenced you, who persecuted you, who shamed you. Does this sound like you? This, if it does, then you have Pluto in the third house. You should have Pluto in the third house. And your trauma, your your wound is that your voice or the way that you communicate or want to express was taken from you. So you were either persecuted, you were shamed, you were silenced in some way, and this caused, because of this could have happened in your past life, or this could have happened in your childhood. And because of this, it's caused a deep emotional insecurity about just how you work in this world, just where you fit in this world, in this universe, in this life. It's caused an insecurity for you. So you're a person, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, or if there's a variance, but you're a person, if you have this placement in your natal chart, you're a person that wants to know facts. That is just, you're so curious and you want to know facts. You want to research, you want the knowledge of fact-based knowledge. This isn't like the ninth house where it's your belief system, right? This is knowledge that's fact-based. That's your curiosity. You have this curiosity to want to continue to gather the information, continue to gather it to form your opinion, to form. But the thing is you don't express that opinion. You don't voice that. You don't communicate that. And this is an interesting house because communication, and I understand this house a little bit because my son is in Gemini, and that's my third house. But I also have Mercury there, so I can process, I can communicate, right? So, but you have this insecurity where you want to get all this fact-based knowledge, but you have this fear about expressing it. You have this fear about sharing it. And um, what I was going to say is the communication isn't just voicing. It isn't, I mean, we communicate in a lot of different ways. Language is just part of our communication, right? There's communication and there's expression in so many different ways. And so if you have this placement, you have this fear about all the knowledge that you've taken and the perspective that you have, and the, A plus B equals C because there's fact about it. You want to express that you've connected the dots and that you understand this and that you know this. So you have a lot of wisdom in here, but you have this fear about expressing it. So, yeah, does that sound like you? So, what you'll do is you'll acquire all this knowledge and this understanding and the way that the way that people work around you and the way, because you have this curiosity for life, for the world, for humans. So you want to know how it works, and you want the facts about how your environment works and how the people work and how this life works. And so when you do this, and the reason that you do this is because you have this insecurity, and when you do this, it makes you feel emotionally secure, like, oh, okay, there's facts, this is this because of this, and so that makes you feel more secure, right? So this is your way to feel more emotionally secure and help that insecurity, right? um and we can't miss the fact that you want to understand how you fit into this, like, how do you fit into this life? What is it that you are with everyone and everything in this life, in this world, in this universe, as a human? But as you acquire more knowledge, you'll feel more secure. As you acquire more knowledge, you feel more secure. As you acquire more knowledge, you get more understanding and you have your perspective and you feel more secure. Okay. And so that makes you feel better. So you think. So you think it's the insecurity being fulfilled, right? It's the insecurity helping you feel like, okay, now I understand. Now I get it. Now I understand, right? So you probably have encountered, I mean, you probably had either you were probably in, if this was in your childhood, you don't trust easily, right? Um and if this was in your childhood, or it could have been other lives, right? You were in some way silenced. So either you were in a family where it was really loud and you weren't able to express, or you were in a family that was really loud and you tried to communicate or you tried to express, but you were just drowned out by the other voices. Or you could have either, because it's the third house, you could have had you could have had siblings or a sibling or even a parent that sort of was very dominating, was very domineering, right? So you couldn't, you were shamed or you were persecuted or you were told that your thoughts weren't your thoughts or your thoughts weren't correct or your thoughts, something happened throughout either your childhood and in other lives. And like I said before, what I've seen from my practice, from doing all the things that I do, there's something about when we're young bringing in the signature and the essence of what we're going to be working on, what we're working through, so you sort of get those same themes, right? But in the past, and even before this life, you were either persecuted, you were shamed, or you were silenced in some way. So your voice was taken, your mouth was covered. You could have been born with a speech impediment. You could have been born not being able to use a limb, because that's a way of communicating. You could have been born with some psychological stuff going on where you couldn't express, but you have this want to express. You have this want to um, acquire the knowledge, the fact-based knowledge. You just have this fear about getting it out to everybody once you've formed your perspective about that, right? About that certain topic, about that certain thing, about the way that we do things here on earth in life with humans, right? So, um, And if you had the domineering siblings or the domineering parents, or it was just too loud and too many and you couldn't voice your opinion, for some reason it has blocked that. It has blocked your, whether it's because you're like, well, they're not listening anyway, or nobody really cares, or whatever this is. It was an insecurity that was made, and it, if it wasn't in childhood, it was in your other lives. But you were not able to express. Does that make sense? So Pluto being here is, we know Pluto is power. Pluto is about obsessions. Pluto is about traumas, right? And Pluto is about empowering you. And there is such power in your perspective of knowledge. There's such power in your perspective of communicating. There's such power in words, in expression, in art, because art's an expression, in music, because music's an expression, in scientists that are physicists that are formulator, or mathematicians that are formulating. That's all fact-based knowledge that needs to be expressed. It's interesting because I'll give you sort of a thing that I told my daughter. My daughter was is I'm very I have to be very careful because my daughter's very private, but my daughter, when she was very little, has always been extremely intelligent, extremely like genius level intelligent. She's been tested and all of that, and she went to special school circumstances and all that stuff. So um, it reminds me of her. She had this issue of showing her work, right? And so even very young, the issue would be her showing her work. She would just have the answer for you and have the answer for the teachers, or whatever, right? And so me understanding that, this is not a normal child, this is a different child. This is a very intelligent genius, because her father was a genius as well, like a very intelligent, very genius, like your mind does not work the same as normal people, as what we define as normal people. Anyway, so I had to approach things in a very different way. And I remember asking her, like, why don't you show your work? This is part of what you have to do as you're learning, as you're going to school. And the teachers require you to show your work. So I'm trying to understand why you don't show your work. And from her perspective, she was like, well, that's not my fault that they're not smart enough to get it. Like, she, from her perspective, she was like, they asked for the answer. There's the answer. Like, it's not my problem. They can't figure it out. You asked me a question. I gave you the answer. Right. But so my way around that, to help her understand that we live here, that, that it's imperative that you express this. And I don't even know how I came up with this, but I said, what if, because she was reading, Brian Greene, and way back when she was 5, 6, 7, but I would say to her, what if, I said, we wouldn't know anything about relativity or any mathematics if, Einstein didn't write his work down, or if Nikola Tesla didn't write his work down. Then we wouldn't be able to progress if you didn't share that, if you didn't communicate that. Like, if they just gave us the answer but didn't give us how they got the answer, some of us need to know that stuff. Some of us need to understand that stuff. And so for that reason, she then started showing some work, but to her it was like, I don't need to show the work. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about with you, is like, you have this, it's not like you, but it's like you have to show your work. You need to express. There is an urgency, there's a thing in you that wants to express what you've learned, express your facts, express your knowledge. And you would be doing us such a favor as humanity if you expressed your knowledge, right? You just have this fear about your knowledge not being, like, it's not the same thing as my daughter, but it's like you, because she doesn't have a wound about it, but you just have this insecurity about the actual expression. You, and some of you may not understand that you are extremely intelligent with your knowledge base, with your fact based stuff. And there's a beauty in expressing that. There's a beauty in the way that Nikola Tesla articulated. There's a beauty in the way that Albert Einstein articulated. There's a beauty in the way that Mozart articulated. There's a beauty in, and this goes on to the third house, like communication or expression is not just one way. It's the way that that you communicate it or you express it, and the way that we receive it, you know. And so what can happen, and I'm the way why I'm putting this together is because what can happen is in this house, when you do express, it could be just unfiltered and unedited, and it comes out harsh, and you can hurt people's feelings. And because there's an art form to expression, you have to learn to what I call read the room. You have to learn to read the room. You have to learn this person, you know, likes it this way. So when I'm talking or when I'm expressing in this way, you know, I maybe have to soften the blow, or I maybe have to take this perspective, or I maybe have to um, be a little bit more harsh because maybe they're more direct in their communication, or maybe they're less direct in their communication, right? And so you sort of take, but you don't give up who you are. You just sort of, in an artist way, express that and communicate that. Does that make sense to you guys? So it's really, really, and the reason I'm saying this is because it's really, really important. And I hope you got that from what I just said. It's so important for us, for you, Pluto in the third house, people, to, if you have this wound here, it's really important to face your fear and learn to express and communicate what you know from your perspective, from the way that you encountered the knowledge, the way that you gathered the facts. It's really important. There are people that are waiting for your knowledge. And the way to help heal this wound is to first face your fear. You have to face your fear because there's power in your knowledge, and there's power in the way that you communicate it. There's power in the way that you express it. Like there may be some Picassos or some Mozarts or some Albert Einsteins or some that live here on this earth right now. We're looking for them, but they have a third house Pluto. You know, do you get what I'm saying? Like this world needs people like you, but you have this fear and this insecurity, and so you've got to get through this wound. And like I said, you have come here at this time to try to release this, to try to work through this, to try to heal this. You knew Pluto was going to be here in this house when you were born to work on this theme, right? To be able to release this baggage. It's because you have been doing this for lifetimes. And this is in your psyche, this is in your core. And you know, how much longer do you want to carry this baggage? You know, and the world is sort of waiting for you. It's waiting for you. There could be many of you that are like, we're like, can we need your perspective? We need you to express what you see, the facts that you gathered, because look at how this world is. We need some new thinkers, some new expressions. We need that. That would be helping yourself get through the wound and helping humanity progress forward. Does that make sense to you guys? You just have to face Pluto, the fear, understand the power that you have, and move through that. Understand that it's just a lack of confidence, and you, and the way to work through this, facing your fear, being able to express yourself to the world. You don't have to do it to the world first. Do it to someone that's safe with you, that you consider safe. Do it if you don't want to face to it because you're too shy or you're too insecure. Do it through journaling. Do it through a vlog. Do it through, I've said this, I worked with people who I would just have them start a journal first and then a vlog on the website. They don't have to say their name, they don't have to say who they are, but they get to express what it is that they want. And the more knowledge, I mean, the more expression they do, and the more reassurance they get from their followers, from people who read their stuff, from people who watch their videos, from people who see their art, you gather more confidence. You gather more confidence. And then, you learn, oh, well, that's their opinion and this is my opinion, and there's an art form to communication, to expression. It's like I said, read the room. Is it too straightforward? Is it too between the lines? And that's how you're working it. But to do that, you do it with someone safe first, or you do it in a safe space first until you gather the confidence. And you'll understand, because I'm going to give you a symbolism. It's like you're a sponge and you have gathered all the information. The sponge is just full, right? And you want to gather more, and you want to gather more because you want to secure yourself. You want to feel secure. You want to feel safe, right? You want to feel protected. You want to feel secure. So you gather more information to feed into that ego part that needs to be fed and say, I'm safe, I'm secure, I know this A plus B equals C. But you're like a sponge. There's like all this information and it's kind of just dripping, right? And you need to release that information. You need to communicate that knowledge through your truth, through your perspective. You need to release that so that you can gather more information, but you'll realize that there's a balance. Like, I'm releasing information, I'm getting more secure, I'm healing my wound. People, I've gathered, there's people that want to see my art or want to listen to my music or want to hear what I have to say. Um, and I know, and I'm getting better at knowing who those people are, where they're at, and how to communicate. I like this way of communicating. I like that way of communicating. Does that make sense? That's all healing that wound. Your lesson or your evolvement is to express what you know and to use your way of communication and knowledge. And you have to give it to the world, because that's what you came here to do. That's what you've been trying to do for lifetimes. It's the psychological BS. And again, Pluto's going to show you your fear. It's going to show you your insecurity. It's going to show you your power, right? And so you're going to get to the power, but it's going to show you fear. It's going to show you insecurity. So at first you may not express correctly. Just know that, and that's okay. You'll learn. You'll learn the art of expression. You'll learn the art of communication the more that you do it. I've always said this. If you come work with me and I've helped you, and I've helped you with coaching and all that kind of stuff. There's some of you that have worked with me for years. I've said this. Okay, I'm interrupting here because I just remembered what I had to say to you guys. I was in the middle of thinking, but then I started channeling. What I was trying to say was, if you've worked with me, I've always said this. If you are saying that you know a lot of something and you haven't failed at it, then that's not the truth. You have to fail a lot. You have to, and a lot could mean a lot of things, right? But my point is that you have to. I know you're the master of something. I know that you've accomplished this if you failed at it. If you haven't failed at it, then you haven't accomplished it. Like, you don't have to consistently fail at it, but if you haven't failed at it once or twice or even three times, it's in the failure that makes us more confident, better at the thing, whatever that is. And for you guys, that would be communication. So you're going to fail at the art of communication in the beginning. Just know that. That was the point I was trying to make, that I completely went out of my mind because I was channeling. So we'll get back to the other part. once you express, let me get back to this. Once you express, there's power when you express. There's power when you gain the confidence. There's power in your words, in your perspective, in your knowledge. There's power in that. And I'm sorry, I cannot remember what I was going to say. But your lesson and your involvement is to express this, is to learn the art of communication again, is to get through that fear because it's in your psyche, right? Let's see. There is, through your expression, through your knowledge, through your fact based knowledge, there is deep understanding in a way that no one else does. Does that make sense? And there are others searching and wanting to receive that understanding in that way. Does that make sense? So you want to take your inner world, all the stuff that you've kept in, all the knowledge that you have. It's your internal deep world, this beautiful depth you have of knowledge that you have, and you want to formulate and find a way to express that and speak those deep thoughts. You're probably somebody who likes deep psychological subjects like criminal minds and very deep psychological, like, what makes a robber a robber, or what makes a murderer a murderer, or what, that kind of deep knowledge that's what you like to uncover. That's what you like to learn. Not everybody, but that's probably, you like the deep psychological way of understanding us as humans and understanding this life or understanding this world, right? So, but in order to be able to communicate that, you're going to have to face your fear. You're going to have to face your insecurity. You're going to have to face Pluto, right? And Pluto will help you. Pluto will give you the power when he sees that you see it, and you have to get through to it by facing your fear and insecurity, by transforming yourself, by resisting the fact that you have so much knowledge, but you want to keep silent about it, resisting not telling anybody. You have to do the opposite. You have to tell, you have to show, you have to express, and you have to do it by learning the art of expression and by learning the art of communication, right? So there is deep wisdom that you have because you put A plus B equals C, and through your perspective, through your lens, through your voice, through your expression, it's going to come out in a way that people are thirsting for. You're going to find people that are like, "Oh my God, I never saw it this way, but this is the way." Like, I totally understand it now. I couldn't understand this concept. I couldn't understand this way. And just the way that you expressed it, I know now. Like, I see it. Do you understand that? Do you understand that you have that in you? Do you understand that there are people that need to see it in your way, that humanity needs to see it in your way? So, um, let me just look at my notes and make sure that I've said everything. Once you do this, you'll understand just how powerful you are, just how powerful this life can be, just how powerful your way of communication and expression can be, just how powerful words are, just how powerful music is, just how powerful you'll understand this in a better way. Like, you have this knowledge inside, but you kept it so internal that's another way to see it too. It's like you know how you have these thoughts in these ways, but until you see a therapist or somebody that you can express this stuff to, it's kind of just all jumbled in your head, right? But when you actually are saying it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes so much more sense, right? Does that make sense? Like there's power in that, and you'll understand that through Pluto. You'll understand. Let me say it this way too. When you express, as you express, when you learn, well, as you're learning the art of communication, and you're learning that, and I said this in the beginning, and you're learning that, oh, well, with this person, I may have to be a little bit more indirect because they use symbolism more. Or with this person, they're not going to get the symbolism. They can take that five different meanings. So I'm going to have to be more direct with that person or that group or whatever this is, right? Or in my art, I like to use more symbolism, or in my music, I use more directness. But if you're expressing to someone, what you also learn is that you can see from others' perspectives. So you actually have all this factual knowledge, have all this wisdom in here, but Pluto's going to help you grow that too once you start learning to express it, once you start learning to communicate it, because what you find out, and I already know this because again, I told you I have Gemini, I have the Sun, and I have Mercury, so they're really good. They're really good. There's a really good placements. That's why I can communicate. And honestly, when I'm communicating, or when I'm doing a video, or when I'm coaching, or when I'm doing all of that, when I'm doing mediumship, I'm the translator, right? When I do that, I try. Part of my work is having to look at how am I going to express this in a way that they're going to understand. So you see, you kind of take yourself out. You have this knowledge, but you take yourself out. You have this wisdom, but you take yourself out and sit in someone else's perspective. And what it does is you think that you know a lot, but what you find is there's so much more when it comes from the different perspective. Does that make sense? So you will actually, and because you thirst for knowledge, this may pique your interest. You're actually going to gain more knowledge, more wisdom, because you're taking it from different perspectives at that point, because of the art of expression and the art of communication. And that's what Pluto's going to teach you, how powerful that is, how powerful communication is, how powerful expression is, how powerful your perspective and others' perspectives are. Does that make sense? Like there's so much wisdom that you can gain by the art form of expression, of communication. Does that make sense to you guys? So the next part is going to be, I hope that helps. I hope um, that I communicated and expressed it in a way that you could understand. Um, and so the next part is going to be, and I apologize, whatever I was going to say just kind of went out of my head because I was channeling. So that happens sometimes. If it's meant to be, I'll say it at another time. Um, yeah. So the next part is going to be if Pluto is transiting in your chart, but you didn't have Pluto in the third house when you were born. It is now, which the third house is probably Aquarius for you. Um, and it's transiting now, not when you were born, but it's transiting now. And that's a little different. Pluto will express in a different way when it's transiting in comparison to when it's in your natal, when you were born with it. So I hope this helps, and we'll be going to the next part. Okay, so this part is the transiting Pluto in your third house. So you weren't born with Pluto in the third house, but if you look, your Aquarius is in your third house because that's where Pluto is transiting and will be transiting for the next 20 years. So Pluto, again, is about the power, about obsession, about transformation, about death and rebirth, about the trauma, about the fear, right? And so to get to your power, he will bring these things to you, traumatic things, obsessive things, fearful things, right? And this having to do with your third house. Um, it will be something that you're going to be transforming to get to the power of it in the next for the next 20 years, right? So for you, this is about the expression, and you can go back and watch the first part of the natal, and it kind of helps you understand this house, this what's going on. But this is about your mind, your processing, and your communicating, your expression, the way in which you express. So if this is imbalanced, if you're needing to finish up, because the transit to me, what I've understood from channeling is that if it's transiting, you're finishing up and about to release and heal this house. Okay. So, with it being about communication in the mind and processing, um, that is going to be messed with for the next 20 years. So, if it's not balanced, if you are still not communicating correctly, and by correctly, I mean, are you being manipulative? Are you lying? Are you being evasive? Now, there's a difference, and you'll see, because I said it in the first part, there's a difference in I'm going to soften the blow because I don't need to be so harsh in my communication because it could really break this person. It could really hurt their soul. There's that different. There's a difference. That doesn't mean I lie to them. That doesn't mean I manipulate them. That means I'm going to, through the art of expression, through the art of communication, through understanding their perspective, I'm going to say it, but I'm not going to manipulate it, and I'm going to use my words wisely, and I'm going to use other gestures wisely so that they can receive the information in a softer way, right? That's different than I'm just not going to say anything. I'm going to lie when they ask me. I'm going to manipulate the situation. That's what could be happening for you. And if that's happening for you, all that's going to get torn down. If you're being the manipulator, if you're being the trickster, if you're being the liar, if you're not taking other people's perspectives, really working with them, and this could be with your siblings as well, because this is your third house. This could be your parents, but this could be your siblings. So that's going to be coming up for the next 20 years, but all that can be torn down. All that can be taken away by Pluto because he's going to show you your fear. Oh, well, like I'll give you an example. Oh, you don't want to express the truth? You don't want to have to deal with this? So we'll just take them away. We'll just put them away. You'll either have to move where you can't communicate with them anymore. Maybe you had a job where you were really communicating, but you weren't doing it the right way. And this is only if Pluto's transiting, right? But he will bring up those fears. So maybe you have a great career, but you're being manipulating and you're lying and you're not saying the truth about things and you're not taking other people's perspective into consideration and doing the art form of communicating and expression. So that's going to be taken away. And then you'll start at the bottom and learn to consider others' feelings, to consider others' thoughts, to consider others' ways. That doesn't mean that you do their way and not yours. That means there's an art form to it. There's an art form in a way of expressing. There's an art form in the way of communicating. And Pluto will take that away so that you can learn the art form, right? Or it could play out this way. Are you being manipulated? Are you being lied to? Are you being deceived and being somebody else, people around you, maybe siblings, maybe not, but maybe siblings, maybe your neighbors, maybe, this is the third house. So maybe they're being tricksters. If they're doing you wrong, they could be taken away. You could not have that, or you will have it extra and so much and like double time so that you finally step into your power, that you finally learn to communicate by taking their perspective, by understanding. And I know that's really hard, like when somebody's being mean to you or somebody's being deceptive to you. But the way to, I'm not saying this is the right way, I'm saying this is just a thing that I'm seeing in my head, a scenario. Like maybe they lie to you because, and you're thinking they've lied to me, they've tricked me, they've whatever. And to understand a different perspective, you could say, and I'm not, again, I'm not saying this isn't to give them an okay to do this, this is just your learning, your wound that you're having to heal. Maybe it's that you understand that the only way they know how to communicate is to lie, because maybe they're in a situation now, or they've gotten themselves in a situation, or they came from a family where lying was the only thing that kept them safe and secure. Like that's just a different perspective, right? I'm not saying it's the right one. I'm just saying it's a different perspective. And so that stuff could be happening to you over the next 20 years. The way to work with this is to understand the way that you want to express and communicate. What is it that you're, what way are you really good? If you're really good at expressing your thoughts and your knowledge and your way through music, do that. I know that sounds out there, but it's, everybody's different. If your way is through journaling, if your way is through um talking to people, if your way is through vlogging, if you're, whatever this way is, and taking others' perspective into consideration, um, as you're doing that, you're releasing, you're healing, you're straightening out the your life, because maybe you're at a point where all you have is liars around you, or all you have is tricksters around you, or all you have are people around you that you have to lie to, that you have to be a trickster to, that you have to manipulate. You know, this is going to be a very eye-opening thing for you. So you could be on one side of it or the other, but that's what's going to be happening over the next 20 years for you. And again, I've said this before, I'll say this again. You can do it in the first 5 years, or you can wait and do it on the 18th and 19th year. You know, that's kind of up to you. Are you going to like look at this? Are you going to look at the people? Are you going to look at the way that you express yourself, or the way that people are expressing themselves to you? Maybe it's that you have such a big uh aura, or a big, like maybe you're intimidating and people only like, they only can express to you through their fear. You know, so maybe you have to learn to soften your expression, soften your way of like, my way or the highway. Maybe you're that type of person who's like, my way or the highway. Maybe it's time to learn somebody else's perspective. Maybe it's not always your way or the highway, you know. Maybe you want to include other people in your highway and their expressiveness and the way that they do it. And I'm talking about the loved ones around you, or the people around you, or the situations, or your boss, or your coworkers, or whatever, right? You'll be working in this for the next 20 years. And it is up to you to heal that wound. But Pluto will be bringing that wound to you. There is a wound there of you not being able to, either in the past, you didn't, or were shamed or persecuted for your thoughts, your expression. And because of this, you learned to manipulate, you learned to be the trickster, you learned, um, or you learned to be silenced. And maybe it's time for you to actually express now, right? So I hope this helps. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate this. I appreciate you. And I'll get the next ones out. I hope you're watching my other stuff, because I'm channeling. I'm opening myself up to do some mediumship. So as I'm opening up my energy, I'm getting a lot of what y'all call spirits and a lot of other spirits. So anyway, thank you so much. Bye.